We'll move on with those that are here. So let me pull up let me share, Dr. Revis. Go ahead and pull up the agenda.
Okay. All right. Well, good evening, folks. And this is our last official class meeting for the semester. Don't forget your town hall is next Wednesday, and that's at 6 o'clock, a little change of time. And that is where Dr. Stone is going to talk to you a little bit about your next semester and finish you out with the program. Maybe even talk about the fall semester. But don't forget to try to be online at 6 o'clock next Wednesday. You can see the agenda. We're just going to do a brief overview, a recap about the final APTEL. I think I've got all but a couple people who whose final APTELs have not been scored, and the scores have been very, very good. Dr. Dr. excuse me. Dr. Stedman, I feel real good about where my students are as far as being able to take that OMA and start working on it on their own. I feel really good.
You too, Dr. Revis. And I want to I think Dr. Revis and I have taught this week. Very pleased with our scores. However, if any of you, we don't always agree with the final scores that you get from an evaluator, but that's out of our span of control. We get you to a place, but it doesn't always mean that they're right, but they're still the evaluator. So if you were one that did not score a 4 and you got, anywhere, nobody got a 3, but if you got above up to a 4, then you don't hold your head down about anything. Dr. Revis and I take pride in knowing that we feel that we've gotten you to a great point before we even tell you to submit. So it's not going to impact you at all, any of you at all that have gotten your scores back. You're going to be fine. You just need to be aware that when you unpack the rubric, it's always important that you always stay in the accomplished column and you work as diligently as you can to make sure that you've got all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed. But just remember that at the end of the day, it's going to be subjective to some outside evaluator. So just know that. So, I don't have a single student that has gotten a score back that you should hold your head down about. I may not agree with it all, but you've done well for me. And that's at the end of the day, I think that's all that really matters, Dr. Revis, is if you have pleased Dr. Revis and you've pleased me, because we're going to give you your final grade. Okay?
And also moving to the case study. Dr. Stedman, I was very pleased that everybody, when they talked about what they would do in Donna's situation, I feel like everybody supported their ideas and their thoughts with research or either some of the modeling, some of the work we did in the APTEL. And it's very important. You're getting ready to start working on school law. And it's very important when you have your Zoom meetings with your team talking about a scenario that you back up your thoughts with your case law. You can't just say what you think. You have to back it up with case law. So I feel good about where you are in being able to do a Zoom and take a scenario and work through it. And sure, we all have our thoughts about it, but how do you support those thoughts? That's the key.
And I agree, Dr. Revis. One of my key takeaways from all of the sessions great leadership. I had one team that co um, co-led, and they did a great job sharing responsibilities and piggybacking on one another. Great job with that. But one of the things that I noted while the focus of the case study was, was the APTEL because it was dealing with teacher empowerment, teacher leadership. When you began looking at analyzing what uh, Donna had done, the principal had done, or what she could have done, or whatever, inevitably every team went back to the work you had done with the APSOR. You focused on the professional learning communities and those things, and you many of you used some of the seminal researchers that you had researched and talked about, considering this. One of them talked about the checklist that you used in the APTEL Marzano's 9. You really did a good job going back and reflecting on all of those things and incorporated them in your in the language. And I was highly pleased with all my groups.
And so tonight we're going to spend a lot of time with Dr. Hamilton, giving her an opportunity to talk with you about finishing everything up in your competency folio and your clinical log. And Dr. Simmons, scan down and let's look at when everything has to be due, no later than May the 2nd. Now, Dr. Hamilton may put an earlier date on that so she can look at it, and we'll give her that leeway. But you've got plenty of time to get that in.
Well,
Nobody.
we've got to have grades in by then.
Yeah. Nobody. Oh,
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've got to. Well, I think we've got to have our grades in by then, Dr. Revis. Anyway, don't let that happen to you. There should be nobody on May 2nd having to turn in work for us to grade and look at. Okay.
No. And so with that, I guess we're ready to turn it over to Dr. Hamilton.
Right. And then after Dr. Hamilton, then we're going to tell you how to get started on the OMA. Okay. Dr. Hamilton, you with us? I have not heard from her.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's just talk about it. Um, okay. You know that you've got the 21 competencies for your competency folio for Dr. Hamilton, and she has done an excellent job mapping that out, throughout the semester so that you didn't have to do all that at one time. And I really like that, Dr. Evans, how she has worked with the students with that. You don't know how much she has saved you from having to do days of work at the end of this program by doing it along the way. So you need to make sure that those 21 competencies have been submitted to Dr. Hamilton and that she has approved them to go into your folio. That's all 21 competencies. Dr. Revis, talk about the internship.
Okay, so you had a mid-semester internship log, and you have from mid-semester to now on your log. And as soon as you finish getting all your hours in and finish the last two things, which are your self-assessments, then you can start counting things you do now for summer semester. So go ahead and get your internship log in order. Now, I think she told you guys you could just have two signed documents for this semester. You may, or if you want to do one comprehensive, whatever you want to do, just make sure you get it in and do it the way she's told you to do. She may be coming on a little bit later tonight. I'll text her here in just a moment and see. But if she's giving you feedback on the competencies or on your clinical log that you need to revise something, guys, you got to get it revised. Your focus needs to be right now is finishing up for her. because you've
right.
done everything for us. I'm
For
just
the
waiting
most
on a
part,
few to be
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, for the most
Yeah.
part, yeah. Uh, and again, remember, if you are one of those that have worked ahead and you've gotten approval from Dr. Hamilton already on your internship, then everything you're doing now can count towards your summer hours. Okay? If you've gotten approval on that. Okay. Task stream requirements. You've got two things. Many of you have done this already. Your School of Ed dispositions, where you just go in and you click on the radio buttons. Takes about 5 minutes to do that, but take it seriously. If you haven't done that, go ahead and get that done immediately. And then the other is your competency analysis. And if we've cleared you with task 4 of the APTEL, you can go ahead and get that cleared out as well. And remember, for the School of Ed disposition and for the competency analysis, you submit those for an evaluation in task stream. If you have questions about anything, reach out to Dr. Hamilton, and I'm sure Dr. Hamilton will reach back out to you in a timely manner. That again, you can see the Zoom link here for the town hall next to Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and you can also find this in Blackboard and more than one place. So hope to see all of you at that meeting as well. Dr. Rivas, we're just going to piggyback on each other with these. I'll get started and then we can just kind of go through it. We'll piggyback with each other and give them advice on how to get started. I'm going to pull up, and all of these documents that we're going to use. Let me show you this. First, okay, let's go under week 14 in your course shell. You'll see these same documents that we're going to use: the OMA task and prompts, the OMA template, and then there's something on master scheduling and my advice would be that you print these out, get you some hard copies, because once the semester's over with, you will not have access to be able to go back in this shell and pull any of this information up. So make you some hard copies, put it on a flash drive somewhere so that you'll have some working documents to work with. And I would also advise you that once we send you tonight's recording, based on what we talk about, you probably will want to save the recording for tonight as well, in case you need to go back and listen to something that we've said, prior to 6:03 starting, or even after 6:03 started, if you need to refer back to something. So make sure that you take care of that. And then let's look at the task and prompts. Now, we're not going to insult your intelligence, but there are some things that we feel like that we need to just read to you and point out and unpack it as we go along. The OMA is the third of 6 evidences that you will complete in this program, having completed the app. So in the APTEL in this semester, the OMA, that's an acronym for Organizational Management Analysis. Now, what does that mean? Now, up to this point, you've been in familiar territory, as teachers. Most of you have been in the role of a teacher or currently as a teacher. You know that student achievement drives everything that you do. So you're familiar with that language. We're somewhat familiar with professional learning communities in some capacity, and then even with the APTEL, you were somewhat familiar with a lot of that. However, for most of you, you're beginning to tread in some unknown territory. You're going to be looking at things Again, remember from the eyes of a principal, but you're going to be looking at things that are more managerial in nature. Now, when you look at the organization, the school is an organization. School is big business. It's an organization. Now, what you're going to be charged to do this summer is you're going to have to look at your school internally and externally. That means that you're going to take a look at the community, the surroundings of your community again, and then you're going to look at what the inside looks. You're going to analyze it. You're going to break it down. You just look at your school, your organization as a puzzle. What are the puzzle pieces? What are all the puzzle pieces that make that puzzle? You're going to look at it from the who works there? Your principal. How many assistant principals do you do? What are they charged to do? How many front office staff do you have? How many teachers do you have? Some schools, there's specific programs. You may be one of those Spanish immersion schools. You may be one of those that teaches Mandarin, Chinese Mandarin. I think that's what there's. I know that in some county, I know in Cumberland County that there's a lot of those types of schools. So your school may be unique to that. That's a part of what you are going to analyze in what does your school look like inside and out. So we're going to talk about some things specifically about that. Make sure that you go back and look at the purpose, the evidence in this document, but I want you to look at these bullet points. These are non-negotiables. These are things that, as you are unpacking the 4 tasks for the OMA, you're going to be required to make sure that you thoroughly understand and that you acknowledge this in your narrative work, every one of these bullets. A knowledge of legal requirements for planning of instructional time. What does the law say? Do you know? The knowledge of best scheduling practices, knowledge of best practices in mentoring and coaching teachers. And we've touched on that a little bit in the APTEL. The knowledge of the North Carolina teacher evaluation system, knowledge of the value of teacher leadership. We touched on that a little bit in the APTEL. Knowledge of how to recruit potential teacher leaders. That's in the APTEL. Knowledge of the functions of a school improvement team. We've talked about that consistently, but you've got to take it the next step. Okay, there's a next. You're doing this in layers. Okay, this might be the icing on the cake now. That's what you're going to put on it. Knowledge of communications, media, and formats. Knowledge of sources of federal, state, and district policies intended for school improvement goals. What does the law say? Knowledge of the North Carolina accountability system. Knowledge of legal requirements for accommodating exceptional learners. This is a biggie with the OMA. Exceptional learners, you are going to unpack everything that you can about exceptional learners. This is a big requirement in the work that you're going to be doing. And then knowledge of technology related to demonstrated task and program development. I'm going to talk about that. So these are the 4 tasks. Task 1 is entitled the contextual analysis. Well, what does that mean? You're going to examine the school and its context, the context of the school, both internally and externally. In this analysis, organizational structures, management routines, and operations are included. Duty rosters, scheduling, transportation at your school, bus responsibilities, maintenance, the maintenance staff, cafeteria, everything. How many do you have a school nurse? are they full-time? Do you have a 50% person that you have to share? What about social workers? What about a psychologist? Now, do you have anybody that's working with um, mental health? Do you have uh, you know, after COVID, did any of those COVID positions remain? What are they? Do you have instructional coaches at your school? Um, what do those look like? What do those persons do? What are they in charge of? Again, you're telling everything about your school. How does it operate, the day-to-day operation of your school? And again, you're looking at that, what's inside and what's outside. So you're going to involve your community in there as well. We'll talk about this a little bit more in just a minute. Dr. Revis, if you would look at task 2.
Okay, so in task 2, you are looking at instructional capacity building. And there, in cooperation with your principal, you will assume the responsibility for developing a program for instructional capacity building designed to improve student achievement. And again, it has to be in accordance with your district and state initiatives, and it has to be following along with state and federal laws. And you have to always talk about your exceptional learners and special needs. Now, a couple of special needs pops that we overlook sometimes would be your gifted students and your second language learners. So you're looking at, with your principal, cooperation with your principal, how you're going to develop an instructional capacity building program. Now, you've
All right,
done some of that in
go
the
ahead.
apps.
Go
You've
ahead.
done
I
some
was
of
going to
that
say,
in the
yeah.
APSL, right? You've done some of that in the APTEL. And your instructor or your coach may tell you to go back and pull some of those things over. But you don't need to start doing that until you hear from your instructors. The only thing that I would suggest you really work on is that task 1. Because if you do it well, you're looking 360 around your school and you're looking at all the ways, the working operations of your school. Task 3, you're focusing on
Dr. Revis,
building.
let's go back to task 1. If
Yes.
your school has undergone accreditation, or if it's had a major review of any kind in the a lot of that information can be found already in a study that would have been done. So you need to look, if you've gone through, I know South Carolina does Cognia, so or I think they still do that. But whatever the accreditation format is for your school system, um, then I would look to see what, ask my principal or ask somebody what information is already there that you can start pulling from.
Now,
And
task 3 is going to be fun. And I think it's fun. I always like to schedule. And it's going to be fun and very timely because you're going to be doing this in the summer. Guess when principals start building their schedules? So you're working with that building administrator. You analyze I would analyze the schedule you have this year and talk about how that would be different or what recommendations you would make for next year. But summertime, early summer is the time when most principals do their scheduling. So
right,
this matches up really well with your clinical work too.
right, it does. And task 4 is going to be what you've done in the APSL and the APTEL. APSL task 5, remember you did 12 of the competencies, and APTEL task um, 4, you did the remaining 9. If this is, you still have to do each semester 21 competencies. They're not telling you this time that for the OMA you have to do certain ones. They're just saying that you have to reflect on 12 of the 21 competencies. And then when you do, because you'll do 2 evidences this summer in 10 weeks. You only have 10 weeks to get all this done for 2. That's why we're giving you this ahead of time. And then the other 9 competencies will be done with the second evidence that you'll be doing, the skip, and during the summer as well. So, but
Dr. Stebbin, I just heard back from Dr. Hamilton. Her plane flight was delayed, and
okay.
so she's going to try, but I told her to take her time and be safe.
Yeah, sure. I think we've got it, so we don't,
Yeah.
we really don't. But this is now look at this. This gives you a breakdown of where you can, it aligns the different tasks that you're doing, with the APSO, APTEL, and the OMA. So you need to look at this. This tells you where you can find stuff like here. Look at the OMA. Performance, student learning outcome, candidate will be able to use data, whatever. Anyway, this is just a helping tool that you can use. This talks about task 1, the contextual analysis. It breaks it down even further, and you don't have helpful hints, but this really can kind of serve as helpful hints, Dr. Revis, because it helps you unpack it. This gives you the prompt, and it tells you exactly when you're doing that for task 1, it tells you exactly these areas here are non-negotiables. They must be in there. The contextual analysis demonstrates understanding of district, state, and federal policy law, district mandates that regulate structures. The analysis includes a critique of current structures and procedures, etc. The candidate is strongly encouraged to include all programs. Just make sure that, these are boxes that you check off. So when you check that box off for yourself, make sure that you have thoroughly covered, everything that they're asking for. And your instructors should break this down more, but we knew that if you waited until the 23rd to get started on this with 2 evidences, that it would be very, very difficult to get all of it done if you didn't get started on it. And it
And can
does
I add
this.
in that last bullet there?
Okay.
Can you scroll back? There you go. We didn't talk about this before, but it
Okay.
requires you to describe the school's budgeting process and procedures. So, I mean, guys, that's a lot of work just looking at that one thing. That's why we want you to go ahead and, get involved in this and roll your sleeves up because, you're going to have to take some time to talk with your principal, probably with your school improvement chair, because what it asks you to do is, does school personnel and school improvement team play a part in this budgeting process? So you've got several people you've got to talk to.
And you come up with your own headings, like exceptional children is a boldface heading, exceptional learners. I mean, um, then budgeting is a heading of itself. Attendance, you've got to analyze attendance for your school. Discipline, you've got to unravel discipline in your school. So all of those would be headings, and you thoroughly provide narratives. And remember, if you can provide a picture is worth 1,000 words, if you can put figures there, graphic information to help further talk about it, that is vitally important in putting this all together. But again, pull this all, download all this so that you've got it at your fingertips. Building a schedule, and I'm going to show you something that's going to help you with that in just a minute. That's a biggie. Task 4, you should be experts at this by now. You just take it to another level. Um, it should be much more sophisticated than what you have done for Dr. Revis and me in 601, because you will have grown. Um, and just make sure that you thoroughly reflect the work that you will have done with the evidences that you are working on this summer. Now, let's look at, okay, this is,
Have you got the
doc-
template?
oh, yeah. Let me come back. Well, let me do this. I'll come back to the template in a minute.
Okay.
This is a PowerPoint that Dr. Lamb allowed us to use that he did some training for assistant principals in the Thomasville City Schools. But he has a lot of just really great information in here that you need to look at as you are completing your work for your task 3. So just make sure this is here for your references and for your use. So here it is. And remember
So
the
we do.
go ahead, Dr. Revis.
No, I was just going to say, go ahead.
I was just going to say the template is not going to be any differently than what you have done for the APSL and the APTEL. You're going to still use, if you're at the same school, you're still going to use your school profile for this as well. Your name here goes on the cover page. Remember, if it's in black, it stays. If it's in yellow, that means that you are to provide narrative work, and then you delete the yellow highlights. And then if it's red, those are suggestions for you to use once you decide if you're going to use it or not. And I would highly recommend, if it's there, that you use it. Then you delete all the red after that, and all that remains is is the black print from your template.
Now, don't forget, guys, we are not using Google Docs. Don't go anywhere close to Google Docs with this. Leave it in this Word format. And make sure you don't throw your APA out the window. You've worked hard this semester to gain a working knowledge of APA. But it's like anything else. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So you may have to go back and review it. Your instructors will not tell you, oh, on page 4, there's an APA error. They will just send it back to you. So make sure you are using correct APA in your narrative work, for your reference section, everything. You know how to do that. And if you forget, go back and look at what you've done in the APTEL and the APSL.
Let me ask you this. Does this give you, it's enough, well, I know it is. It's enough tools to help you get started. Now you're going to have, from this point until, I think, your class, in the past, it's been on Wednesday night. So I don't know if it will be on Wednesday night or not. You're either going to have Dr. Stone, unless they change, you're going to have Dr. Stone, or either you're going to have Dr. Sanders. They're both teaching 603. So you're going to have one of the others, and they're full-time professors that on campus at Gardner-Webb University. I would highly suggest that you go ahead now and get started. And I can already see, Della, I can see those wheels turning in your head, because I've seen how you've been doing, and others as well. But I could see it when Della looked up. I could see it, and it already turning in her head. But go ahead and get started and start pulling. I would just take map it out. Just say, this is what I need as you look at it, and then ask for information and just start pulling your information together. You're not going to be working much with a PLC. This is on your own. You're pretty much independent on most of this work.
Your first week of class will be the week of the 21st, depending on when your instructor is going to meet, and you'll find that out next week. Um, like you say, if it's Wednesday, that'll be the 23rd, and your Blackboard shell should be open on the 14th.
Right.
But remember, we had 14 weeks. You have 10. So get started. Any questions on how to get started with the OMA?
I believe we're dealing with
Yes,
X, but go
I,
ahead.
I have a quick question. Is there where we could find like maybe a one-stop shop for like the legal stuff that we need to look at? Like, is there a
Well,
North Carolina like website or you
yeah,
know?
there's a public
The
school
law.
law
And
website.
if you're working in South Carolina, you're going to have to use you need South Carolina's, but you're going to need North Carolina's as well, because you're going to have to look at some things, because North Carolina is going to be the one that's providing you with you have to get your license in North Carolina first before South Carolina reciprocates it. So you're going to have to you and a lot of it is very, very similar, if not the same.
So we're looking
Just
at DPI. Is that what we're
no,
looking? Department of
no.
Instruction?
Just Google North Carolina school law general statutes.
Mm.
And
Okay,
Janique,
thank you.
that is a great thing to get into and learn how to maneuver and manipulate.
All right.
That is a lot of information.
It is. And
I think if you'll do that, it'll come up and then it's broken down by different sections.
and all of you, if you could in dealing with school finance, you may need to take it a next step. You may, talk with your school finance person, your principal, but you may want to talk with somebody that is over district finance as well, if you can get an appointment with them. Talk about state, local, and federal monies. Any more questions? Again, do you know how to get started? Do you feel good about knowing how to get started? How many of you, just by a show of hand, how many of you are completely through with um the work for Dr. Hamilton? Oh, wow. That is wonderful. So that means that you're pretty much free to go ahead and get started on this without having to think about anything else right now, right? So go ahead and get started. And if you run into something minor, we can only direct you so far, because um, we know what's going to be required, but we don't know expectations from your um, instructors this summer. So we can only go so far, but we can answer questions, from our own role as a principal. If you're working on it and you don't quite know what to do, just reach out to Dr. Revis and me, and we'll be glad to help you up until the point that you start your class. Okay. Well, Dr. Revis, that's all. That's it.
Okay, well,
All right, guys, it's been a pleasure. I know I've said this before. I know some of you probably, if I had hair, you would have pulled it out because you got that aggravated with me sometime. But I hope it's been worth it. I hope you understand that whatever whatever we did, whatever we said, whatever it was to get you to this point, and so that you're able to move in to 603 successfully and become much more independent. So please know, none of it was ever personal. It's all, I mean, we we've been in the trenches. We know exactly what what's ahead for you, and we want all of you to be successful. And you
We
wanted
do.
to, you wouldn't be in the program if you did not want want a next step and something different for you, for your personal gain, to help your family. All of this is about that next step for you. So
And guys, I think we told you the first, or I did. I told you the first class. I love teaching 601 because I enjoy seeing how much you have grown. Not only just in your ability and your writing ability and learning APA, but just as a leader. Many of you come here and you've not had any leadership experience other than a classroom teacher. Some of you do. But I have enjoyed working with you and watching you grow. Phenomenal group of students. It's one of the best classes I've had. I will have to say that. And I've enjoyed getting to know you. And I just wish you the best as you complete your program. Keep in touch with us and let us know what's going on as you start applying for jobs, which you should do this summer. If your school district allows you to apply for those assistant principalships before you're fully certified, as long as you're in the program, you should do that.
exactly.
Okay. And I'll be glad to be a reference for you, as I'm sure Dr. Stebbin will be. And, don't sit on your hands waiting for somebody to beg you to, or don't wait on the perfect job, or you'll be sitting right where you're sitting. Reach out there and take a chance. Okay.
Travis, I just completed a reference for a student. They're going back to school in another program at Wake Forest. But I just completed a reference for them, and it was 5 or 6 years ago that I had that student. So, we're constantly still working with students that we've had for several years, as they need references, or they're, climbing the professional ladder and, taking on new opportunities.
And what they're looking for, and I know that you will have a session before you finish this program about interviewing, but what they're looking for is they're looking for self-starters, self-motivated people. And so from our perspective, they don't care if you're a good writer or not. They don't really care if you know APA or not. What they're looking for is your work ethic. And
But we care about APA and we care about writing, so you got to get past us to get there first.
right. That's the kind of thing they're looking for, and that's the kind of thing we can speak to that they're interested in.
Right.
But again, we will meet next week, but we don't know that we'll be able to get to say these things to you. Um, don't leave us out of the loop. Let us know what you're doing, what you're going to reach for, and Godspeed. You are going to do well.
Amen. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, I
Okay.
guess for the most part, this is it.
This is it. I've got a Zoom. I want to Zoom with Tonette. Tonette, are you online?
Yes.
Tonette, let me send you a different link
Okay.
to your email. That way, Dr. Stedman can go ahead and process this recording, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Chris, not singling you out. If you'll just hang on until the very end, and then it'll be just you and me. I need to talk with you just a minute. Salita, did you get my last email? I mean, my last email.
Yes, sir. And I've taken care of all of those.
You've taken
things.
care of that. Okay. Okay. I just
Yes.
wanted to make sure. Thanks, Salita.
All right.
Okay,
All right.
guys.
Good night. We'll see you
Good
next
night. We'll see you
Wednesday.
next
All right,
Wednesday.
thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.